Hello, everybody. Looking forward to introducing you to my third guest for the Entrepreneur Interview Series. Welcome, Gail.
Hello.
This is my friend Gail Whitear of Giant Solutions, and we're going to jump right in. Gail, please tell us what you do and why you do it.
Partnered, my wonderful business partner who's not here today. Her name is Gail Westphal. We partnered together through bringing our life experiences as well as our professional experiences together to create Giant soft skills training or development specialists. A lot of people don't know what soft skills are. It's a word that's becoming a bit of a buzzword, but it's essentially life skills, how to navigate life so much better. We spend so much of our time at work, so it can really impact your life if you're not navigating it well and the pressures of your work life. So there is this skill set, these life skills, these soft skills that they can really bring to their work life, to bring in work-life balance and to also make the quality of life within work so much more palatable and manageable. So that's us in a little bit of a nutshell.
Maybe give a few examples of some of the soft skills that you are teaching businesses. What are the ones that you see are the biggest gap in the places of employment?
Yeah, to talk about soft skills, just want to touch on what technical or hard skills are. So if you think about it, talk about a mechanic. They'll go to school and they'll learn about the technicalities and how to be a mechanic and the components so that they know how to fix like an engine. So those are technical skills. Companies and professions will have very specific technical skills that you'll need to learn. Even if you're a salesperson, there's certain technical product skills that you'll need to know. The soft skills really are around your attitude and the way you approach your work life, the way you problem solve, the way you critical think, the way you communicate, the way you build rapport through your confidence in how you tackle any of the situations. So if you're a bear with a sore head all the time and extremely negative, it doesn't matter how good a mechanic you are or how good a salesperson you are, you're not going to get the job done. What we found and realized there was quite a big gap, especially here in South Africa, in the soft skills development, because actually employers are now looking for soft skills when they come to hiring. Because technical skills, you can access those, anybody can learn them. But soft skills is an inside out approach as opposed to an outside in approach. It's your attitude around how you deliver yourself within your work environments. And it's been proven and shown that effectiveness, profit margin, the health and the wealth of the business is impacted significantly as a result of that.
It makes me also think that this is very valuable in leadership levels because leaders really have such an impact downwards. And if a leader is having challenges with certain of these soft skills, that this can really impact lower down. And so I imagine at a leadership level that this is even more impactful. I'm curious on your thoughts.
Yeah, 100%. So whenever we go in and we were talking to businesses, we were saying that it needs to really filter down from top down. If your leaders aren't having this buy-in, then it doesn't matter what you do at your more subordinate levels. Everybody needs to be talking the same language. And it's actually the leaders that can model behavior. And they have the power to transform their departments. So we really do say it needs to filter down. But essentially what we would do is we equip people with the skills to be able to almost pass those skills on. They're so transferable. You can take them into any aspect of your life. It's not just in your professional life. You can take it into your personal life, anywhere you go. So we really do equip people to become influencers in their life. How do I influence people? How do I motivate them? How do I inspire them? And as leaders, that's what we do. How do I collaborate? How do I bring out the best in people? And that's really where the power does lie, where people are excited to be around each other. There's nothing worse when you've got people, they're all speaking at each other or departments are against each other. And there's this terrible competition. It's real grinding. So it's so important. We truly do believe everybody needs it, but anybody who's going, oh, the admin staff need it. No, you need it just as much. And so we look for companies that are really committed to that and they have that buy-in because we're moving in that direction. We're innovative creatures. We're expansive creatures. We are really starting to see that technical knowledge is just not enough. Big companies, they really are looking for that ability to be inspire, motivate, transform. And in order to transform others, we must be able to transform ourselves.
Beautiful. I'll come back to why did you start this business beyond even teaching soft skills? What was your reason for starting the Giant? You mentioned a little bit like South Africa lacking, but is there anything more you want to add to that?
Yeah. So I've been practicing, I've got my own private coaching practice as well. And I've been practicing as a life coach for 10 years. And through my journeying, and I used to work quite a lot in the commission-based industry. They were pretty much self-employed in that space. And realizing and seeing that it wasn't their technical knowledge that was the problem. It was this internal world of how they perceive the world, how confident they are. It's also that self-belief. It's such a huge thing. And how many trapdoors we actually have internally, what stops us from actually moving forward, and how we get stuck and how we stay stuck. So I did a lot of work with them around how do we keep ourselves moving forward? Because we are moving forward. We have to be moving forward all the time. Just if you look at nature, for instance, the herds migrate, birds migrate. Nature is constantly ebbing and flowing and moving, and we're a part of nature. We are one of millions of species that occupy planet Earth. We really are no different in that space. So when we stagnate, it's an incredibly painful place to be. So I just started seeing that there was this real lack of this internal self-development that was happening, and ultimately these soft skills. So really desiring to want to bring that in a more impactful way into businesses. I very much needed a business partner. I needed to find somebody to do it with because I didn't want to do it on my own. So I manifested my business partner, Gail, and we met by absolute chance. My son, he had a fractured hip from rugby. I needed somebody to loan me some crutches for him. She said yes, and we met. And the moment I met her, I just knew that we would just make a brilliant partnership. Her wealth of knowledge and information and her corporate knowledge is phenomenal. So we very much came together in a very collaborative space. We just really want to help people navigate the day to day and be the best possible version and teach them how to keep that leveling up little bit by little bit. One of the things that I say is that change is not a destination, it's a lifestyle. It becomes integrated into who we are. But we need to learn skill sets around that. And we need to understand who we are within our human nature. And that is expansive and evolutionary and innovative. We have phenomenal imagination. We have dreams, hopes, desires. How do we access that? But believe it or not, there are skill sets that you can learn in order to do that. And the lack of those skill sets actually is what stagnates you and stops you dead in your tracks. So just really wanting to just take this amazing, insightful, transformative information and sharing it with anybody who desires to listen and go, wow, I want to be that person. I want to keep moving forward. I want to keep leveling up.
Beautiful. I'm sure in your work with clients, you notice that the people learning soft skills, or how's your business positively impacted the local community? I heard you say people don't even realize sometimes what they're missing or how learning a soft skill can really change their lives. Yeah. Have you noticed any ways in which your business or your trainings has impacted the local community?
Yeah, we're in our second year of the birthing of giants. Gail and I bring in collectively 45 years of work experience and life experience. In terms of when you say community, we see how it impacts people when they come onto our workshops. And we know undoubtedly those people go into their lives and they impact as a result of that. Sadly, we don't get to see that ripple effect. We get feedback on it. So it is our absolute belief that what we share and what we do in our workshops, because it's not training, it's not like this, get out your notebooks and point one, point two. It's such a transformative process. And one of our clients that we worked with in Joburg, and she called it mind altering. And I love that. She said it is literally a mind altering experience. And when we were so confident, we were like, when you walk in, you will not walk out the same person, because we really want to just shift and change perceptions of how people see their world, but for the better and for the positive and for the hopeful. Because a lot of people have lost a lot of hope, just wondering if they're ever going to come alive again. We get stuck in that tragedy. So how we impacted the community, we know that we impact anybody that comes onto our workshops, which they're going to take out into their community, wherever they go, into families. We know that there's been major transformation. And I always would say to my children, a lot of us think that we change the world by connecting to the millions in the stadium or millions of followers. And I'm talking to all these millions of people. We don't. I'd say to my children, I'd say, if you can make one person smile today in this moment, that's one more person smiling. You have changed the world. There's 8 billion people. And now that's one less sad person in the world. So you have actually changed the world. We tend to go large, and it's not. Change and transformation and impact happens with one smile at a time, one person at a time, one tiny little shift in perception for the better. It's so powerful. It's just so, we truly believe in that. So if one person that's been changed, we have changed the world. Undoubtedly.
Absolutely. I'm just now reminiscing on times where people have done something kind or been generous with me or been friendly with me versus when somebody has met me with anger, hostility, frustration. And I carried that experience. I remember once something happening and I was really impacted and really upset and sad. And then dealing with somebody who was really caring and considerate. And even still now, as you were speaking, thinking back on times where people have just been kind to me. I still remember this roommate, and it's 20 years ago, but I still think back on that time where I was struggling to punch holes in paper at my apartment. And this roommate didn't even speak barely English. And she was walking around on her phone. And the next thing, she just plucks this huge like punch hole on the table. She just saw me struggling and knew that she could do something. She didn't ask, didn't even say anything. She just plunked down this thing because she knew it would help me. And to this day, I can still talk about it and know that someone saw, someone cared, someone.
You were seen in that moment.
Yeah, I was seen, I was supported. And obviously now, almost 20 years later, I'm still able to recall that moment and share my experience with that. All right. Looking at my list of questions, what business values or philosophies guide your decisions in your business?
Sure. So I don't know if I'm going to answer this technically. I'd love to be able to rather just communicate some quotes or good sayings that have really sound principles behind them that drive Giants and how we operate within Giants and within our own personal lives, because Gail and I are really passionate about taking what we learn and practicing it in our own lives and ensuring that we're not just walking the walk, we're talking the talk to the best of our ability. Trust me, we haven't arrived. There is no arrival. We're in that constant space of growth and evolution. But one of the things that we really live by is by Einstein. He says, if you cannot explain it to a child, you do not fully understand it yourself. And that's really, in layman's terms, is just keeping it simple. Life actually, in terms of the building blocks of it and its components, is really made up of very simple components, extremely simple components. We love to overcomplicate. We love to, and there's a time and a place for that, absolutely. But I think when it comes to working in the business and working and moving it forward is simplification, really breaking it down into very manageable bite-sized pieces. The content that we bring is simplifying what would be considered quite complex concepts and really bringing it down to the mechanics. So just as an example of that is that our English language is made of 26 letters and that's it. And yet, if you had to think about the diversity of the content out there, of the literature, of the articles, of how the words are used in advertising, you name it, the written word is billions, trillions of different ways. And yet it's 26 letters. So if you operate from more of that simplistic place, that is where you get the most phenomenal creative process. But you got to know when to get back to basics. Get back to basics, create the space between the busyness of life, because we'll bring every aspect of our life into our business because it lives in me. So can I actually create space? Can I breathe? Can I just create a bit of perspective and distance? Keep it simple. And what are those strategies and how do you apply it? And we teach very much on that as well within our workshops. As I say, we really do to live and breathe what we are about. And of course, do we overcomplicate at times? Absolutely. Undoubtedly, we can get super overcomplicated in that, but we just need to know how do we get back to basics and keep it simple. So I think you said 3, but I think that it counts for 3, just for the length of time that I've spent talking about it.
What I know from you personally, and I've known you for a long time, and even on this interview, I think people that are watching can see your authenticity. You're very real, and I'm imagining you're also, both because you're living that and you're engaging with people in that way, I'm imagining you passing on, or that's one of your values, and you're somebody who chooses to live a responsible, accountable life. And I'm imagining that bleeds over, for lack of a better word, or that's saturates the people who want to work with you, people who want authenticity, not just, like you said, corporate lingo, or let's just convince them that we know everything and we never make mistakes, and so that they will hire us or whatever. I really think authenticity is so underrated. So if you want to speak to either authenticity and or accountability, I just know of the conversations we've had that those are what I perceive values of yours.
Yeah, hugely. And I think we're a work in progress in that. I'm multi-dimensional, multi-layered. Of course, I'm going to have masks. I'm going to hide things. I'm going to be afraid to step out. I'm not just an all open book for everybody to see. We've got to give ourselves permission to unfold as we're going to unfold. I think authenticity is realizing I'm human and I'm not this perfect being and I'm organic. I ebb and flow. If we look at a river, for instance, it's ebbing and flowing all the time. It looks like it's the same, but it never is. There's new water moving past and we're the same. We're very fluid. There's a part of us, like physically we're fixed. This is what I look like. Nothing's going to change that, but I live in this internal world that is ebbing and flowing and moving all the time. I'm experiencing the range of emotions and thoughts and interpretations. It is forever moving and flowing in that space. So for me, like, authenticity is about the recognition of that, the recognition that I have my dark side, I have my light side. There's a saying that you don't get light without shade. I'm not a perfect being and I do have my negatives, but I also have my positive attributes as well. And I'm not all one thing. I'm not this black and white. I'm so nuanced. We all are. And the more we get to know ourselves and the more authentic we start to become accepting of ourselves, the way more compassionate and accepting we are of other people's human condition, because we all really share the same condition. I'm not the only one struggling. Trust me. There are days where I think I am, which is an illusion. I'm not terminally unique. We're a species called human beings, and there's much about us that is exactly the same. And that's what makes us so complex, because there's this uniqueness, but there's also this major similarity. And I always say when we are connecting with people, look for the similarities, not the differences, because it's the differences that divide us. Let us see each other's humanity together and feel connected and feel bonded in that space. And we bring that as well, especially when there are teams coming together. They walk away, they just see each other so differently. They're like, oh my word, but they see each other. You were talking about being seen earlier on with the whole punch. I could see you were struggling. She gave you a proper one. You felt seen in that space. And this is about who sees me? Do you see me? Not this. Do you see beyond that? And the more I see myself, I promise you, the more I'm going to see you, because actually we really are the same.
Said, okay. Question number 4. What are your top tips for aspiring entrepreneurs, for people who are listening, who may be wanting to be entrepreneurs or who are afraid to do it, afraid to take that plunge? You've been doing your own business for many years. So what tips do you have for people who are aspiring to do their own thing, go their own way and work?
Run. No, I'm joking. Go get a job.
I'm sure someday.
Don't be stupid. What are you talking about? We are insane people. When you want to work for yourself, there's something wrong with you. So very, like, real. Like, honestly, I do. What was I thinking? Okay, it's real. That's real. Like, come on. You wake up in the morning and you think, what the was thinking? I just want to go and be a barista, and I just want to make cappuccinos for the rest of my days. It's so simple.
The barista might argue with you on that.
Yeah, like, I want it looks simple. Like, I just want to learn this beautiful art so I can just do that every day, just chat with people. That was, oh gosh. Yeah, and I think like by me like reacting that, and I know it's tongue in cheek, but there is a real reality in that if there is somebody who's aspiring and like wanting to do that, it's like just be prepared to be okay with the roller coaster. If you're going to be a bit of an adrenaline junkie, because it's going to get hair raising. And I just want to really speak that into people's lives, because we can idealize it. We were chatting earlier about this idealization. It's a great idea. Why wouldn't you want it? Best idea on earth. Everybody's going to want to buy it, and then the realities of it. So it's not easy, but just because something's not easy doesn't mean it's impossible. So for aspiring entrepreneurs who want to go in that direction, stay in touch with reality, but know that you got to enjoy the roller coaster rides and be okay with the tears and the frustration, be okay with the anxiety, be okay with that kind of stuff, because with the highs come the lows, and with the lows come the highs. So we got to be okay to be able to navigate that. I think you've got to be okay with being adaptable. You've got to be okay with problem solving, and you've got to be okay with hustling, like hustle. Somebody said to me a couple of weeks ago, it was a client that I was coaching, and he said, is to starting up your own businesses is that the biggest challenges is figuring out how you're going to survive for the first few years, because it is about survival. How am I going to make it work and still pay my bills? And for me, I'd love to give this romantic notion and follow your passion, and really, no, sometimes it is literally what was I thinking, but I wouldn't choose anything else, because I love the excitement of the unknown. Be brave and be excited about the unknown. Be somebody who's a trailblazer, somebody who's got the wanderlust, somebody who's not prepared to just stay in the same paddock. They want to know what's over there. They want to know what's over there. They want to know what's over there. So that's what I would really say. But yeah, be prepared and be okay with the fact it's going to be tough, but
Yeah.
the journey is beautiful nonetheless. And the richness of learning and growing, you will get nowhere else and nowhere else. Like I tell you, like money can't buy that stuff. It's, for me, a spiritual experience, and it genuinely is. I get to express and see my soul to depths that I didn't even know possible. So I'm pretty passionate about this, as you can tell. And I hope that that inspires people who are going, wow, like I really want that. It's not a linear line. It really isn't. And be prepared for that.
You said it very well. There are some people that can work with the uncertainty and get excited and find it intriguing and interesting and challenging. And there are some people, I've had people say to me, I could not run my own business and not know exactly what amount is coming in my bank every month. So they'd rather live under conditions that I couldn't possibly see myself live under. The amount of pressure and stress. You spoke about the tears and the stress. Whether you're employed and under somebody else's direction, there's going to be stress either side. Whatever you choose, there's stress, there's challenges.
Totally.
There tends to be a little bit more perceived certainty as an employee. Perceived, you know what you're getting in your bank. Let's say you've got a salary that's coming in on the 25th every month. You know exactly what you're getting. And when you're an entrepreneur, you don't know. Some businesses might know. Some businesses might be able to project. But there is a capacity or a soft skill that needs to be developed to be able to work with uncertainty in a way that's constructive versus destructive. But I know people that just couldn't possibly tolerate that, and then entrepreneurship is not for them because uncertainty is pretty much a constant. But I really do think, and you spoke about it, it could be a spiritual experience for you because ultimately really life is very uncertain, but we have these areas of perceived certainty, and we try to, I think as humans, create areas of perceived certainty. But you could lose your job overnight, the company could crumble overnight, and then you don't have that. There's so many unknowns also, and things out of your control, even as an employee. So for those freedom seekers or trailblazers, those people are willing to take the challenges that come with being on that side of the line, so to speak. Either way, there's struggles and there's challenges and there's sacrifices. So
yeah, and I think you've got to be a risk taker. And I think when you spoke about what kind of soft skill would you need a lot of them. But I would say for me, like the number one is adaptability. Are you adaptable? And as human beings, we are innately adaptable. It's in us. And by the way, all of these soft skills that we have, we possess them anyway. They've just atrophied. If you don't know about them, then you can't exercise them. But you actually have everything that you need. You just got to know how to access them. As human beings, we have to be adaptable because we're still surviving, aren't we? We're flourishing. There's billions of us on planet Earth. That's a testament to our adaptability. So actually, when we stagnate, we're actually working against our nature, not actually for our nature and honoring our nature. But as an entrepreneur, you've got to have that, a lot more of that. And you've got to be a risk taker. You've got to actually enjoy the fear. The fear can bring this optimum anxiety, the not knowing, the excitement of what's today going to bring. It doesn't mean to say you don't get despondent and you don't want to become I was saying sometimes I fantasize about just being a barista in a coffee shop somewhere because like I'm frustrated and I'm human and I'm normal. Would I really want that? If I got there, no. Would I choose that? And with everything there, you get your yin and your yang if you want. And I always say, it doesn't matter what you choose in life, the path you take. We get to decide. We know there are pros and the cons. Everything's going to bring its negative attribute to it. You've got to decide, and you get to decide what you can live with and what you can't live with. So I think entrepreneurs, they can't live with that block everyday repetition. Okay. Whereas people who are employed, they can't live with that uncertainty of just knowing from one day to the next what's going to happen. So from one, that's a negative attribute to this is a negative attribute. So you got to ask what you can live with at the end of the day. Because negativity and positivity occupy the same space. You can try to run away from negativity. I promise you, it's just never going to happen. It doesn't matter where you go.
Thank you. That's awesome. So the next two questions I'm going to bundle in one so you can speak to them both at the same time. They go together. So as a business owner, entrepreneur, what is one of your top struggles and how have you found ways to overcome that struggle?
So Gail and I, we talk about it actually quite a lot, and especially when we're struggling, and we live by this thing called progress, not perfection. Okay. So I think like one of the things that I've learned to manage is my expectations. I'm wanting to deliver at optimum, or I'm wanting things just to work out so well. And then I've got to remember, and Gail and I often say progress, not perfection. Are we still progressing? Sometimes it's really slowly, sometimes a bit faster. Sometimes we're progressing like 1 inch at a time, but are we progressing? And we're learning and we're growing in that space. So it just allows us to be more compassionate towards ourselves. And another huge one within business and in my personal life is this comparing my internal world, like how I'm feeling, to my external world. So it's very easy, especially around social media. We're looking at other people posting about their businesses and this and this. And then, and we know our struggles, we know what's going on, and we're feeling despondent, or we're feeling like, oh, things aren't going so great. And then I'm seeing posts about people are posting their successes. So you tend to compare. You're going, I'm really feeling like we're not succeeding. And look at how everybody else is succeeding. So they're comparing, and you got to watch that, hugely watch that. Manage your expectations, progress, not perfection. It's okay. Like sometimes you're going to go as slowly as a snail, and sometimes you also got to rest and pit stop. Sometimes you actually just got to sit. You just got to be. Don't get off the path. Just be. Sometimes it's just smell the roses a little bit, and then you can start moving forward again. And that comparing, whoa, you got to watch that, because it can really stop you dead in your tracks.
Good one. I think you've just answered the next question, so I'll skip the ones you've answered.
Did I even answer the first one?
I think you did. These questions are really guidelines, and the idea is if someone doesn't speak to something, then we can go deeper. But if you spoke to it, great, we can move on. If you could go back in time, what would you tell your younger self before starting this business?
Yeah, I would be like, don't sweat the small stuff, and don't take yourself so seriously. So I think we all can really start taking ourselves seriously, and you literally suck the joy out of life. And it's not as hard as you think, because I think I'm making things a lot harder than they really need to be because of the imaginings in my own mind.
So when you're taking yourself very seriously, when it feels as hard as you are thinking, how do you get yourself out of that? Because sometimes we know, okay, maybe I'm being serious, or someone says, hey, you're being serious. How do you find your way out of that hole or that mindset? Obviously, mindset is one of the things you probably teach, but yeah, what do when you're stuck in a negative mindset, or you're stuck in a cycle of something that's keeping you from taking it more lightly and playfully? Because it's easy to say, oh, take it lightly when you're looking at your bank accounts, or you're waiting for that invoice to clear, or the cash flow, or whatever. So how do you help yourself?
Yes. So it tags back to what I said earlier. It's about simplifying, getting back to basics, elevating. I think it's also a perception thing. Like, how do I elevate myself so I can see the bigger picture? Because when I look at something from a distance, how do I create distance from the actual stimulus? So when I start taking myself seriously and I get into the kind of like that reptilian mode, that fight or flight, we teach a lot about that, because I can tell you now that little thing can cause havoc in our lives. It really can. It's what are the things that I can do to start creating some distance and to create bigger picture thinking. That comes out of the box thinking, which is another great soft skill, is like, how do I see the bigger picture? Because we do tend to think that when we get tunnel vision, when we start to see the world through the eye of a needle, firstly, it's very distorted. You're not seeing the big picture. And we just tend to then go into catastrophe mode. And this is the end of the world. I'm literally going to die if I don't pay my rent, or I don't make enough money to do this. I promise you, the possibilities are absolutely infinite. I've paid my bills in ways that I can promise you now, I've managed to pay my bills in ways that were not given to me by giants. I promise you. Like miracles. There are ways, other ways. There's many roads to Rome. So we get tunnel vision. We're going, the only way I can pay my rent is if I make X amount from giants. No, there are infinite different possibilities and ways that you can do that in terms of that creative thinking, and just actually how well we can get into the problem solving, and how we can hustle and jostle and juggle and move the parts. And so, yeah, it really and truly is about recognizing when we're in tunnel vision, when we're in reptile, fight or flight, live or die kind of mode. And so there's a little tip that I use, and we teach on this, is when we get into reptile and when we get so tunnel vision and it's like kind of this live or die, we just got to ask ourselves one question: is there a lion in the room? Because if there's a lion in the room, then yeah, okay, you are allowed to feel the way that you do, because yes, the chances are you're going to die. And what it does is it engages our prefrontal cortex, which is our logic and our reasoning. So it's amazing. Like when you ask yourself a question, it snaps you in going, what? Is there a lion in the room? No. It's all of a sudden, okay, so you're not going to die. All right. So we know that we're safe. So like your reptilian goes, oh, we're not going to die. We're not going to die. There's not a lion in the room. So funnily enough, reptilian will go, okay, but I'm not needed. Because the reptilian part of our brain is there to keep us living, surviving. And that's actually what it's there for. But we start to behave when we get into that tunnel vision. We're taking ourselves so seriously. We are literally living like there's a lion in the room. There's no lion in the room. You're not going to die. And so we need to be able to access our prefrontal cortex, our logic, our reasoning, our ability to elevate, our ability to strategize, our ability to be able to, I think, remember, why am I doing this? I'm in a journey. I'm not looking for a destination. I'm actually journeying through this, and I'm learning and growing. So I think it's also grabbing some real universal truths as well about my nature, about being human, about being evolutionary, expansive. It wasn't just Christopher Columbus who was an explorer, Brew. We've all got a Christopher Columbus in us. We think, oh, it's them. No, it's babies. It's toddlers. I went gray. Look here, running after my children because they were basically, are they going to kill themselves? You know what I mean? Because they're exploring all the time. All society, very sadly, the schooling system very sadly knocks that out of us, stops us from that exploration. It really and truly does. And so we need to remember, because we forget, we're very forgetful creatures. Remember, life is actually built up on very basic building blocks. ABC, 1, 2, 3. Look at the maths. It's the same with the English language. So we've got to access that. It's amazing what happens, how you can elevate and then see the bigger picture.
I often say the same thing about a piano, a keyboard. There's only so many keys, but you can make all kinds of music with the same keys, right? You can play them different ways.
Exactly. It's like sales, for instance. There are certain universal principles and steps that you've got to take. And if you replicate them, and yes, you can be creative around that, but if you just keep those principles in place, you're going to get success. Marketing, I know you're huge into marketing. There's going to be certain principles. If you just get back to basics, when it starts to get tough, get back to basics and trust the process. Don't be so focused on the outcome. We teach on that as well. Trust the process, not the outcome. Forget about the outcome. It's the process that determines the outcome, not the other way around. And it's the process that you're in control of. The outcome, actually, we're not as in control of as we would like to be. And it's where we focus. So where your focus goes, your energy flows. So when I become too outcome driven, then I'm tunnel vision and I've sucked the joy out of life. And I just want the world to swallow me up. And this is not about not getting in the trenches. You're going to get in the trenches. Whether you like it or not, you're getting in the trenches. The key is, how long do you stay in the trenches? Are you staying in there for a couple of hours a day? Or are you staying in there for weeks, months, years? That's what we don't want. It's not about not getting in the trenches. There's actually a lot to learn from getting in the trenches. But we want to know, how quickly can we recover and then start moving forward.
Beautiful. And the final bonus question, Gail, I'd love to hear you speak to your definition of courage.
Yeah. So I've written some articles around this on our webpage. I've written about, there's actually more safety in the unknown than there is in the known, because in the unknown, the possibilities are infinite. And that's courage for me. Personally in my life, that's where I find my courage. And being brave as well is not shying away from fear. So if we look at courage, core, like part of it, it's Latin, is actually, it means heart. Okay. So courage comes from here, but it's actually fear that gives us the gift of courage, because we cannot be courageous in the absence of fear. So like, we got to make fear our friend. We've actually got to see that fear is actually there to see us succeed, not to see us fail. If we alchemize it and use it in the way that's for the betterment, we can take anything and turn it into something, into the powers of good, into a real motivating force for ourselves. And we often see fear as a stop sign. No, it's there to give us a message, and it never leaves us empty-handed. Through the message, we find our hearts. And when we find our heart, we find our courage. And our heart is the gateway to our soul, which takes us on the most beautiful soul journey, a spiritual journey. So just seeing that the unknown actually has more safety because the possibilities are so infinite, which means there's more solutions out there than it is in the paddock. And I use this thing of, if you put a herd of cattle into a locked paddock, there's only so many resources within that. They're going to overgraze it. They will starve. They need to brave the unknown, because there's more grass out there if you want. And I know they said grass isn't greener, but yeah, there's more solutions out there, but we've got to be brave in that space. So invite the fear in. It will give you the gift of courage. You'll access your heart, which is the gateway to your soul. And it is the soul that is what transforms people and is ultimately how we transform the world. Heart of who we are in Giant, we fully believe in that.
Beautifully well said. I hope many more people will find the courage to brave the unknown. My business is called Grow Brave. And we're friends and we get along well because we have very similar ways of looking at life and wanting to encourage people to live to their fullest potential, which means being brave, which means being daring, which means activating courage. I love how you spoke about the heart there.
What I want to say as well is surround yourself with the right people. Surround yourself with people who, when I am losing my courage, I borrow courage from someone else. I need their confidence in me sometimes to fuel me again. It's so important that we're wise about stay away from the naysayers, stay away from the people that will give you 50 reasons why you can't do something. Find the people that will give you 100 reasons why you can do it. And maybe there's one reason why you can't, but who cares? Go for it. So what you're doing here and allowing people to speak their journey is just so powerful because the people listening will not feel alone. Something will resonate and going, I'm not the only one that's feeling that way. So we've really got to find our tribe with like-minded people. So thank you for creating this platform for that as well. It's just so powerful. And I'm just looking forward to hearing more and more of the interviews. And I've already enjoyed the first two that you put up there. So I look forward to all the other, because I know that I'll learn and grow from everybody else's experiences as well. So you are amazing.
And like you said earlier, it just can take one person. And that's really, for me, having this conversation with you today is joyful. And I love talking to people. I love hearing how they overcome their struggles, what's their tips, how they learn and grown. And I really believe that entrepreneurship is so important in South Africa with the levels of unemployment and just challenges that people go through. And it can be really difficult to be on your own and really difficult to start a business. And there's so many unknowns, so many hats you have to wear as a business owner or as an entrepreneur. But I'm hoping to share the message that we're not alone, that there are other people out there that are willing to go through that fear, like you said, face that fear, knowing their heart, why they're doing what they're doing. Knowing your why is really important so that on the days that we lose courage or we feel despondent or we feel down or we say, what the heck am I doing? That we can remember why we're doing what we're doing.
Because we're forgetful. And when we get down in the trenches, it gets dark, we can be very forgetful. Sometimes I need people to remind me why. I need other people to access some of the parts of me that I can forget from any one given moment to the next. And I'm so grateful. And I truly do believe that we're all put on this earth to be the light in some way, to light the path for the people around us. And how do we influence and how do we impact? And that's the gift that just keeps on giving. I always say, how do you become an asset rather than a liability?
I love it. I love it. Thank you, Gail. Thank you again so much for your time. And everyone, I hope you enjoyed. Feel free to leave some comments here for Gail or myself.
Hi, everyone.